Since DVR doesn't always represent the actual quality that you see in the goggles, how much worse are the HDZero goggles compared to DJI? Okay, first of all, way back in the day, when everyone used analog goggles and a lot of people used Fat Shark goggles have a particularly crappy analog DVR. It is motion JPEG encoding at a low bit rate, and on top of that, for whatever reason, the DVR had worse signal than the actual screens. In other words, you would see breakup in the DVR that if you took a camera and put it in the screen and recorded the screen, the breakup was not there. And as someone who tried to test analog receiver modules in a repeatable way, I struggled with how to represent realistically what the person was seeing in the goggles. I ended up 3D printing mounting brackets to mount a GoPro in the eyepiece of a Fat Shark goggle so that I could literally record the screens and I didn't have to rely on the DVR. That has led to a widespread belief that what you see in the DVR is not as good as what you see in the goggles, and therefore you can't trust when a YouTuber puts a DVR up. There is some truth at the end of this discussion, but I want to start with the falsehoods. That is not as true anymore. DJI and Walksnail, for example, when they record DVR, well, the DJI V2 goggles and the Walksnail goggles, for sure, are literally just taking the video frames and recording them to the SD card. It's literally exactly the same data that you see on the screen. In one case, it gets sent to a screen driver. In one case, it gets written to the SD card. It's literally the same data. Okay? In the case of the O2 goggles are re-encoding the data. Because if you think about it, the O2 goggles can record the whole screen. They record the menus, they record the OSD. That stuff is not present in the video feed coming from the camera. So the O3 goggles are re-encoding the data. And so anytime you are re-encoding the data, there is the potential for a reduction in quality. But if you take the O3 DVR and, I don't know, a screen recording, I don't know what you would do. Oh, the onboard DVR? No, the onboard DVR is clearly going to be better quality, but that's not what... I guess you would have to have literally a camera in the eyepiece of the O3. I think you'll see that DJI has given enough bit rate to that recording that the O3 DVR is a fair representation of what you see in the goggles. And the same is true for HDZero. I don't know exactly how the HDZero DVR works. I do think they're re-encoding the signal in some way, so there is the potential for a reduction in quality. But when I have done frame comparisons and screen comparisons, I find that the HDZero DVR looks very close to what I think I'm seeing in the goggles. So, why then do people look at product reviews and they go, oh, that looks so much worse than what I see in the goggle? And they say that products, especially HDZero gets this, they say that it's not getting a fair representation, that the YouTube reviews make the product look worse than it really does. Here's one reason, and it's not the DVR. It's YouTube. YouTube has a very conservative bit rate that it allocates to its streams. And it does that because it has to transmit a lot of data to a lot of people all over the world. And if they were to give 45 or 50 megabits per second, well, that would be a huge amount of bandwidth. And a lot of people are just like watching on their phone. What do they care if they're getting 75 megabits per second? You know, who cares? So whenever I upload videos where especially like test videos where I care about the video quality, I render the video in 4K resolution. And the reason for that is that YouTube gives 4K videos higher bit rate. So even if I have I record all my content natively in 1080p, but I render it at 4K. I think 4K 35 megabits per second is my standard. I upload it to YouTube, and YouTube gives it 35 or whatever megabits per second they give to 4K. And that's not enough bitrate for a 4K stream, a good quality 4K stream, but it is enough bitrate for a 1080 stream. So I've got a 1080 video. I'm lying to YouTube and I'm telling it it's a 4K video to trick YouTube into giving it more bandwidth. Now, none of that matters unless you choose the 4K option when you're playing back. If you just let YouTube show you a 1080 stream, you'll get reduced image quality. Whenever you are watching a test of HDZero, Walksnail, DJI, and somebody like me shows you sample footage, you must go down and change the stream to 4K. Even if you are not watching on a 4K display, you still are not getting the best video quality and you really can't tell what's going on. Okay, so then, the other thing that could be going on, and this is, I think, a little controversial, I have had the experience of looking at an FPV goggle and going, oh my God, this looks so good. And then I look at the DVR and I go, why doesn't it look that good? And I go and I do a frame by frame comparison. And the DVR, I can see that the DVR is accurate. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? It's the OLED screens. It's the OLED screens. The OLED screens in the goggles, this is what I personally think. OLED screens look so freaking good. And then you look at that DVR, and if you're not looking at it on like a really ultra bright, contrasty OLED screen, it doesn't look as good. And it's not the bit rate or the resolution, it's just the slapping your eyeballs with pixels, with lumens. Okay? So I want to get rid of the myth that the DVR doesn't represent what you see in the goggles. That was true for old analog goggles. For modern high-quality analog goggles like Orca, SkyZone, not HDO2 because they still have the same shitty DVR. They improved it a little bit, but I still don't. But for modern goggles with high-quality H.264, H.265, and modern, they're going to give you a very accurate representation of what you see in the goggles. Maybe not perfect. For DJI V2 and Walksnail, the DVR is literally the exact same data as you see in the goggles. For O3 and HDZero, it is, I believe it's re-encoded. I know it's re-encoded for O3. I believe it is for HDZero. But they have chosen a high-quality encoding that is essentially indistinguishable from the original signal. And it's just YouTube and or the fact that you're not seeing it on an OLED. But here's what I don't like. I've done tests with I hate to pick on HDZero because I feel like I don't know, because I feel like I don't want to sound like I have a beef. But this happens more with HDZero than anything else, and I'm just going to say it. You post a video of HDZero, and immediately the HDZero's biggest fans show up in your comments to say, mine looks better than that. What have you done? What have you done to sabotage HDZero? I'm looking at your video. It looks so bad. Mine is better. You must be out to get HDZero. Or they'll say, yeah, you can't, or if they're more charitable, they'll say, you can't trust the DVR anyway. That looks way better than that in real life. I don't agree. I don't agree. I think the DVR looks very similar to what you see in real life. It's just that your subjective experience while you're flying. The other thing is, while you're flying, you are thinking about flying. While you're watching the DVR, you are thinking about watching the DVR. You have more attention to notice the video quality while you're looking at the DVR. While you're flying, you're distracted. So, anyway, that's my take on that. Joey W., OLEDs are brighter and more saturated and have darker blacks. And I think there is value in, you say they're just brighter, but like, that's like saying, all I did was add a little more salt to this food. Yes. And that literally means your tongue can taste more flavors. A screen that's brighter means that it is projecting more photons into your eyeball's sensory organs. Which, like, I don't know how you could go, yeah, how could that possibly matter? That's like the one thing you're doing with your eyes is collecting photons. So a display that gives them more photons seems like it's, granted, at a certain point, they're so bright that you hurt your eyes. And, obviously, it's not all or nothing. But OLED is, I am completely sold on OLEDs for FPV goggles. And like, if you don't believe me, fly OLEDs all day, and then like on your last 2 packs, switch to an LCD goggle, and see if you don't go, oh my God, what is wrong with these goggles? Why are they not, do they go up any higher? That's been my experience anyway. But, I respect your decision if you don't agree. Obviously, it's subjective.